My name's Danielle Slayton. I'm going to be your moderator for this spotlight today. I'm pretty excited about what we've got going on. I think we all have seen that logo, know that brand. FC Bayern Munich, one of the world's most successful brands, one of the world's most successful sports organizations. And, you know, I know that a lot of us probably know some of the names on the men's side that we see oftentimes, former coaches, current players, Pep Guardiola, Thomas Muller, Robert Lewandowski. But you may not know that there's another Lewandowski who happens to be from Pennsylvania and plays for the women's team. Her name's Gina. But there's also a lot of really big-time, cool German national team players who play for Bayern Munich. If you watched the World Cup in 2015, you might recognize names like Melanie Leupolz, Simone Lauder, Laura Georges, who is from France. She was one of their defenders for the French national team. And with us today, I'm very excited to introduce Bianca Rech, who was working on that pronunciation. But she is responsible. She is the sporting director for FC Bayern Munich on the women's side, and she's responsible for bringing players like the ones I mentioned to Munich, shaping their development, helping shape the football philosophy, the strategy behind the club, monitoring the youth development, and planning as well. She also facilitates the exchange of information from the youth technical director to the head women's first teams coach. So she plays an integral part in that whole network and system. She was a professional soccer player for many years. I won't let her make her name all of her clubs, but she played for Bayern Munich. She represented the German national team for 20 caps, I believe, something like that. I'm still friends with her, don't worry. We had many a battle with Germany, that's for sure. And she holds a degree in sports economics, a UEFA A coaching license, and a UEFA Executive Master for International Players. Please give a warm welcome to Bianca Rech, Sporting Director for FC Bayern. So we're going to have just a little conversation. We're going to leave about 15 minutes at the end, so think of your questions. We'll be able to hand this microphone out and ask any specific questions you can have. But just to start, Bianca, can you give us a sense of your job and the structure of the people that you work with? How does the organizational chart look like, and what is your role at FC Bayern Munich?
Well, it's quite easy. I mean, we have the women's football department. We are right now in 6 full-time people and have some like interns who are helping us. But we're like totally connected to the guys. Our facility is with the boys. So it's the new FC Bayern campus, so very good facilities. Organizational-wise, we have our women's football manager, Karen Dana, and then we have like the administration part and the sporting side. I'm a little bit in between. I'm responsible for, let's say, the whole sports side. I'm also traveling with the first team all the time. I'm taking care about the first team a bit. Also, the youth part. I'm like implementing our philosophy, maybe like putting in new strategy. So I'm connected with like the whole youth and also with the first and our second, our under 20 team. But I'm also like let's say the right hand from our general manager. So we like talking about even transfers, about the strategy which we want to take in place. So I'm almost everywhere, I would say.
Totally. So you mentioned the word strategy and the philosophy at Bayern Munich. What is that philosophy that you're trying to teach to the players and that you're trying to implement throughout the club? What is FC Bayern Munich football?
Yeah, in the beginning when I came and I joined the club in my current role, it was quite hard because when you talk about FC Bayern, it's like it's the brand. If you talk FC Bayern Munich, you see the guys very successful. And this is always a little bit a challenge for us because we're a part of the club since the 70s, so we're not like a typical, coming out for the last past year. So we have like a big tradition in the club. And in the last 5, 6, 7 years, we were quite successful. So we won the championship, we won the cup champion. And since then, it really grows. I took my role over like 2 years ago, almost 1.5 years ago, and there was not really a strategy or like a philosophy. Who are we? Like, what is the women's football about? And there was, so we tried to really say, okay, we're the women's, and we need to be a bit different from the guys, because we don't have the success, but everyone thinks that when you think about Bayern Munich. So we tried, first of all, to implement a little bit, okay, how we want to like structure our use, how we want to like fill our first team. So there was, the youth was doing their own thing, the second team was doing their own thing, the first team was doing their own thing. And in the past years, you could see we only had international players in our first team squad. So you couldn't really find German national team players, for example, or even young German national team players. So it was really more, okay, we get a Dutch player, we get a player from US. So we really thought, okay, we need to change something. We really want to give a chance young players, like German players, to be a part of our club.
So how do you develop that development plan, right? You want to bring up those young players. How do you begin to take the first steps? And who is involved in that conversation with you developing your philosophy and then going to execute it to the youth academy and the youth players in your area?
So we at Bayern Munich, we have three, like our first team. The second team is now turning into an under-20 team, and we have 2 under-17 teams. So we don't have under-12 or under-8 or under-10, because we have a really big grassroots program in the Bavarian region. So not from Bayern Munich, but the Bavarian region is really known for a lot of grassroots programs. Okay. So we don't want to pick players from there, and really things, and we could see that the really talented players who are coming to or who are joining our club in the U17, they mostly play with boys before. So the most players we have, like under 17 youth national team players, they play until the age of 16 with the highest league in the boys league. So, and we try to get these players because I think they have a different development than like girls playing like from a young age until like age of 16 only with girls. So there's much more quality. They're like, it's a different development, I think. And these are the players we are really picking, or who are joining in the end our team. And then from there, we have a second under-17, which are like a little bit younger ones, like U15 players, U16. And then our first under-17 team is playing in the highest youth league in Germany. So it's already like a very, very high quality game they need to play. And the youngest under-17 ones, they're already playing now in our under-20 team. So to give them a chance to already get used a little bit more to the physical game of the women's, because normally when you play until age of 17 only with the U7 team, it's a different game. I always say it's a girly game. You know, that's what you can see, because the players we take over like to the second team or the first team and they only played with the girls. It's a big, big step for them. So now we put the under-20 in between to give them the chance to develop, to give them more time to develop on a women's level, before they probably make the step, and we hope we have gotten some good examples now, to get to the first team.
That's very interesting, because in the United States we have, my experience, I grew up playing with boys, but only until I was maybe 8 or 9, and that was many, many years ago. And now, you know, we have 50-50 almost girls and boys playing the sport in our country. And I don't think that you would very often have a girl at 16 playing with a boys team. But what are the characteristics and the traits of the players that you are looking, maybe they're playing in that grassroots level and you're thinking about bringing them to FC Bayern? What are the specific traits that you're looking for? Maybe technical, maybe physical, maybe mental. What are you looking for in a player that you think can play with your club and go on to the next level?
I wouldn't say physically, because when I see my youngest ones who are like joining the under-17 national team and our team, very different, like from really small ones and tiny ones to like tall ones. So it's not the physical part. It's really more like the technical part and physically part only in regards to, yeah, sprint, because I think this is a big topic, even like for the first team, like how fast she is. And the biggest thing is really like technically, what can she really do on the ball? So this is really
what aspects of technical? Is it dribbling? Is it passing? Is it well-rounded? I mean, what matters the most?
I think it's more like technically like that she's both feeted. I think this is one really important thing, and also that like dribbling, because that's another thing you didn't really see now. You didn't see these kind of players like, you know, running around in the field, dribble, like having ideas in the box, and because it gets really into, okay, tactics and, okay, passing the ball from one to the other. And we were struggling, and you can see that these kind of players where you're like looking for like in the past years, you're going into the box, having ideas, you don't see them that often anymore. So this is the kind of player we quite of trying to look again into it.
When you get a good player into your club, and maybe she is, 16, 17, and she is trying to progress up to the full team, do you have a set curriculum? So our 17s work on this, when they become 18, they expect to do this. When they become 19, do you have a path with expectations and standards for each level?
Yes, a bit. It's more like the quality is, in the end, it's the quality. So if we have a player who's 16, and we had two players who were 16, and when they joined the club, they were supposed to play for the under 17 team. 3 months later, one of them already played the first Champions League game with the women's team. So we didn't expect that, but it can happen. So it really depends how they develop in their each age group. So, and sometimes you have players that develop quite fast. Sometimes you have players like where you think, okay, she needs still more half year because she needs to adapt to the physical game. She needs to adapt to the speed of the game. So it really depends on the player. And we have like our steps, but still, you need to have some ideas if she's good enough or she has enough quality. So you can switch over to another.
In the United States, we talk a lot at the youth level about development, but we are very competitive Americans, and we always feel like we have to win everything too. What is the right balance between focusing on development and focusing on winning? And maybe at what age does that change? I understand maybe at 17 you're talking about this, but do you talk about that with a 7-year-old? What does that look like, and what is the best way?
I think it's an interesting question, because we had that conversation last week about, okay, where's the balance? And I think even we play with the under 17 team in the highest league, and yeah, it's nice to win, and it's nice to win the championship, but I think it should be more the development. Because when they do the step to the first team, and then you need to change quite fast, I think it's early enough. Mm-hmm. I think it's important, the development first, and then the winning becomes after.
Yeah. Amen. So we have in the United States, we have a big college system in the NCAA, both on the men's side and the women's side. Is there anything equivalent in Germany? Does anything like that exist at all?
No, not in the same way as you guys have here in the US. You have the academies, and we also have that, not at Bayern, but there are different teams that have the possibility where they can play already in the club, but also stay, like they provide houses and stuff like that. But like a typical college system like this, no, we don't have that.
Yes. What is your assessment, or do you, when you're looking for players, do you look at the college game in the United States? What is your assessment of how, based on what you know of the college system here in the United States, what do you think of it?
We changed a bit, because in the past years we were looking for like talented players. Now we look a little bit different because of the success of the past years and the investment our club is doing into the club in our women's department. Now we have a quite high quality, so we're really looking for top players, like high-profile players, and we want to develop more our youth national team players. So we're not really looking into like young players who are coming in from colleges to develop more in Germany. We have more the focus on like German player in the youth. And then like for the first team, really, if we get or want to get more players, we're really looking for high-profile players.
Okay. So if you were to come to the United States, which high-profile player do you think is the best right now?
There are a lot. But I will be honest with you, to get like a US national team player at that time, like a high-profile one, is quite hard because of the CBA. They're earning quite a lot of money compared to like the German national team players. So it's quite hard to really, reach them and really tell them, okay. I think personally, I think they should do it because I think the game is better in the European leagues and in US leagues. Sorry, guys, but no. For example, we have a player. She played in colleges for like 4 years, I think, and she played for Sky Blue. And she joined our club in January. And it was quite funny because when she came, she told us after 2 trainings, she's like, "Wow, that's crazy. Like to play in this, to train in this team, the speed of the game, it's so much different." So it's quite interesting. But I mean, if I could choose, I would take definitely a US national team player.
Good answer. So let's talk a little bit about those trainings and what the speed and what soccer is like in Germany, because many of us might not have the opportunity to see that. In your role, how much time do you spend out on the field? Do you coach at all? And what are the intensity in those trainings like? Can you paint that picture for what a training
question
might be
with
like?
a lot of questions, right?
Sorry.
Okay, where do you want me to start? Okay, how much time I spend on the field? I think I spend like 2-3 days a week. I spend to watch our trainings from our first team, just to be on top and to see what's going on, because if I have to take decisions in the end, I need to know what's going on. The youth teams I tried, because I have not a sporting director, but someone who's taking care about the youth too. So because I can't be everywhere, I try to watch the youth games too, even like our young players, to see okay who can make it to the first team. So this is how much time I spend. Yeah. That's a lot of time. 24 hours are not enough sometimes. So this is especially like a long time I'm really on the field. Coaching, maybe 3-4 years ago, after I stopped playing, I decided to be assistant coach of one of the in the highest league in Germany too, for FC Köln at that time. But it was quite a hard experience. I heard it in the panel before, like when you play with the same team and then you have to change and drop into that role to be an assistant coach, and like 4 weeks earlier you went to a party with them, and then you're the assistant coach and have to take decisions about, oh, you're not playing. It was quite hard for me, and I should have taken a breathing first before I take over that role. But in the end, I always felt myself more on the management role, but still I'm so near to coaching and to the sporting role, so that's quite fine for me.
What makes Germany and German soccer one of the best in the world?
I think we have a really long tradition. I think we have a really good grassroots program. The German national team was always like on the top level, and I would say we really had like very talented players in the past. We're struggling right now a bit, but I don't think it's the quality of the players. It's more like the change of the coaching, because Sylvia Knight was a long time there. But we will come back, I think. And I think it's a different game to the US. I always remember myself when I played against the US team. I always think, well, when you meeting the US team first, in the first game, you're standing there and you see like the big US girls, like being so fast, physically on the highest level. And also one other thing I really liked was like how confident they are. Like on the field, you're like, ooh. Like I remember playing against Abby Wambach and when I met her in my under 20s team and she was standing right in front of me. I'm like, oh my goodness, how should I stop this girl? Yeah. So, yeah, and like they go on the field and they scream and they're loud and then you have the Germans right next to her. You're like, saying anything. So it's different and we're like I think the Germans are on tactic-wise very, very strong. Like even in our team, like our coach in regards to tactic, top level. So our girls can play like 3-4 tactical systems in one match if they want to. So and like technical wise, I think we were always a bit stronger than the US team. So the US team was more like the physical part, very strong, very confident, and then you had the German side. It was more the tactical part. So and it was just always a little bit this.
I would agree. I mean, when we played Germany, it was our mentality and our physicality. I mean, it would be like, oh, today's a bad day to be German. They're going to get it today. But that was, we felt like we relied sometimes on our physicality and our mentality, sometimes maybe too much. But that was a real strength of the U.S. for sure.
And there's another part why I think now, like, national teams become so much closer together, because at that time you guys were so far away with like technology and everything like this in regards to physical training, and we were so much behind, and even other countries were so much behind. And I think the physical part is one of the part who developed the most in the past with all these national teams. So that's why I think so many national teams now are so. Yeah,
there's a very small gap.
Small gap now,
So when it comes to Germany and kind of that big picture, how does Bayern Munich interact with the DFB, with UEFA? Do you learn from each other? Are there coaching development? What is the interaction like from club to national team to all of Europe?
I mean, to interact with FIFA, I would say it's quite hard when I think about national team release periods.
Let's not talk about FIFA
let's don't talk about this. But UEFA, sure, we're sharing some things right now. We're doing like a study on medical, like with injured player, and I think it was really needed because of so many release periods. Like our players, for example, in 2016 during the Olympics. From 365 days, a German national team player was gone over 100 days. So the amount of games who the players have to play, I think it's quite crazy. And I think it's really important that they decide to do like a study about it, about how many players are getting injured. So this is one really good thing UEFA does. And I mean, with the Champions League and all these stuff, we have a really quite a lot of exchange. And on DFB side, with the grassroots programs, with our team, and there's like, I wouldn't say daily contact, but I think they're a big player in the development of women's football.
That's great. Talking a little bit more about women's football, and specifically women's coaches and women's administrators, sporting directors of coaching, how many women are involved in Germany? What is that percentage like?
I think on the coaching side, I would say quite sad, because I think the reason for this is on the top level, because there's so much money in the game now. This kind of job, it's getting interested for guys too. So when you think about 10 years, no one was really interested to coach a women's team, right? So, and then you had like former national team players and then who coached the teams. And now, since so much money is in the game and you can really make a lot of money as a coach for like a women's team, and you're like, the commercial side gets bigger and. So it's not nothing special that you're like coaching a women's team anymore. And it was 10 years ago, it was different. So I think this is one part why there are not so many women out there. And I talked to a coaching course at the DFB, and they told me the same. When you taking like how much like female coaches took the courses like 10 years ago, and now there's a big difference. It's less
Than before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When I took my coaching course, there was 2 out of, I don't know, 70,
Yeah.
2 of us maybe, but that was 10 years ago, and I don't know what it's like in the United States now, but we do know that at least when I think of the college level, women are leaving the college game, and we have far fewer women's coaches. What can we do to make it better? How do we solve and get more girls continuing to play soccer and then progress to becoming coaches? And
Yeah, I think you should involve the players quite early. That's what we do right now. We talk to our players to give them the opportunity to do a coaching course, even for the players who are injured for a longer time and they don't have really a possibility to play a long time. We always try to talk to them and say, okay, what can you do besides playing football? Even you're a professional player, but as you know, you can earn good money for like 6-7 years, but what's coming afterwards? So for us, or it's my, like, let's say my goal to really make sure that these players after their career having a chance to do something else and not waiting for the red carpet coming down. So it's just like a little amount of players who has that chance. And the coaching course is one of them. We're working very close to our Bavarian Federation to bring these players in and to do their coaching. And also we try, for an example, we had an injured player, quite young, 24. She had to quit football because a lot of knee injuries. And we're trying to take her in now for the next season to be like a coach in the youth section. So we really try to bring the players in to have them still in the game.
Can you make a living as a women's soccer player in Germany, and can you make a living as a women's soccer coach in Germany?
In Germany, it depends on the team, I would say, in the league. If you're a player of Bayern Munich, you're a fully professional player on a 12-month contract with good salary, I would say. And also, if you're a head coach of a first league women's team, and maybe even on the second league, you can live from that.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of the way that you see youth development in the United States. I don't know exactly how familiar you are with some of our good things and some of our bad things here in this country, but what's your assessment of player development in the United States? Is that something you've ever thought about before?
I mean, I just know the coaching, like the college system, and it is quite clear.
Lots of rules.
Lots of rules.
Yes.
The other thing I'm a little bit missing is, I think, the part, because it's so different to Germany or to Europe compared to the US. Because if you go in Germany as a football player, or like you grow up in the street and you want to play football, you go to a football club because it's so cheap to do. And I think it's a big difference here in the US. It's like, I would say, quite expensive to join a club. In Germany, you're like, if you play football in the street, you think, oh, I want to join the club. Like their parents pay whatever, 60 euros a year to take part in their club with traveling and everything. So I think this is a big difference to development in the US and the development in Germany, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, many argue that our pay-to-play system is something to be considered and something to maybe be changed, and maybe a weakness that we have in this country, I don't know. What would you say is the biggest strength of the German development system, but also a weakness and something you guys need to do better in terms of developing players in Germany?
Oh, good question. Do we have weaknesses? No. Yeah, I think we have weaknesses for sure. When you see like the amount of women's female players is dropping, but I think maybe it's more a society problem. Like we have players dropping off in the age between 10 and 14, when everything else, or like a little bit older, like 13, 14, 15. So when everything else becomes so much cooler. And not like playing football and getting bleed knees and whatever. Yeah, I think it's quite hard to say, but I think we really need to take care about our grassroots programs more again, and really give them the chance to stay in the game and, yeah, to make it more popular. I think it's quite hard to say, I would say.
I think the same is true in the United States. I think I saw a statistic where 70% of kids stop playing organized sport, not just soccer, but organized sport at 13 years old. As you become a teenager, like you said, maybe it's not so cool. But do you think it has anything to do with more money and the professionalization of sport? There's more money, so it's more serious, so we have to win more, so it's more pressure at a young age. Does that play a role in your mind at all?
I think it changed a lot. I think women's football the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years grows extremely on investment side, how much money is in the game, so many like great clubs coming over and open up women's sections. So as you said, I think it's much more. It's not only development and fun, and yeah, it gets much more because there is money in the game. So even like young players can earn money in an early age. So I think this kind of changing everything a little bit.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give to young players, young girls, or coaches who work with young girls to get them to stay in the game and develop, so maybe one day they can play for a club like FC Bayern Munich or some professional team?
I think the most important thing is really to keep them having fun. I think that's one of the key things. I always say they should enjoy the game and not taking them into a box and just, okay, you're not allowed to that, you're not allowed to that. So it's really, they should feel free to do what they want on the field. And you can see even now, like in early ages, like parents, coaches standing on the side, screaming and like telling them what to do. So, and I think this is because I think they see the opportunity for them, like being like big, getting money, and yeah, you see that already in young ages. It was always a boys' problem more, I think, on the boys' side, and now this is a problem which comes on the women's side too, like on the girls' side.
Yeah, we have those same challenges with, parent-coach dynamics and interactions as well. You talked a little bit at the very beginning about how you have a big FC Bayern campus, and you have the men's program and the women's program there. Is there interaction? Do you ever work on the men's side or with the men's team in any capacity, or are they fairly separate?
On administration side, we are like very well connected to marketing, media, and everything like this. Last year when we played Paris Saint-Germain, like they really helped us to promote the game and everything. There's a really good interaction. On the sporting side as well, I mean, at the campus, at our new facilities, I would always say we're living already there with our like whole boys section. So we're sitting on the same floor, we're talking to each other, we share things, our coaches there share things. And also mostly the biggest exchange with our first men's team is more on the athletic part side. So when we moved into our campus, we had a big, because we had some stuff new coming up for us, the GPS system, and we never based on that before. So we were like in contact with like the first team athletic coach. Also, we had to get a new athletic coach, and who was the one who was responsible for the men's team, who kind of choose the one who's our athletic coach now. So there's an exchange. I mean, not on daily basis. It's two different worlds. Yeah. But still, it's not like, okay, they're the women's, they're the men's. We don't care. It's not like that.
You share when it makes sense to share. What about on the mental side? We talk about the technical, tactical, physical. You just mentioned that. What about on the mental side? Do you do any training for that? How do you address that with your club, if at all?
Especially when we do that in trainings camp, like preseason camps. We're bringing someone in who's like taking care about that side. Also, we have the possibility, like during the season, like at the campus there, we have like a coach where players can go. And I mean, the mental side is a really important side right now, I think, because of the game, the success of the game. And if you play for Bayern Munich now, it's about success too. And this changed the past years too. So it's, it's quite different.
What is it like to experience the Champions League? As Americans, you know, we watch it on TV, and what's it like? I know you guys were just in the thick of Champions League against an evil team named Chelsea, apparently. But what's that experience like to play in what I would argue is maybe one of the biggest competitions in the world?
On club side, I think it's the greatest experience you can have. I think the format need to be changed now, because the format now is quite old to have like just 1 or 2 games. If you're out, you have one top game and then you're out. So there should be, I think, group games, because I think on club level to play teams like Barcelona, Man City, Chelsea, there's so much potential for fans, engagement, and the people are like really, they want to see that. The national team is something different, but on club level, if you like playing Champions League for the players, it's the Champions League. That's the special. That's what you want to play, and that's what you want to win. So this is the like a really desire of the players, that they really want the qualification place to play Champions League in the next season, because it's the biggest thing. So I think honestly we want to have more club games like this, during the season, if it would be possible, like a club World Cup or like everything like this. So in preseason, for example, this year, there are like so many tournaments coming out, events were coming out. You go to a tournament and you play like Arsenal, you play Paris, you play Montpellier in a tournament in France, and then you go to Switzerland and you play a tournament, you play Benfica Lisbon, you play Zurich. Like, people see that. They see the potential to have these games. So, I would have much more of these. So if you have in a group game and you play 3 games at home and you play against like Chelsea, you play against Man City, and you play against a smaller team, like, it's crazy. Like, for our Paris game, we had like 8,000 people during the week on like 7 o'clock in the evening. So it was crazy. Or in Paris, we had 12,500 people to watch our Champions League game in Parc des Princes. So Champions League is the competition. We're really looking forward to it when we can play it every year.
So would it be better than potentially to structure it how they do on the men's side when you have a round? Is that what you're saying? Like a group play and then quarterfinals, semifinals, like that? Or something entirely different?
No, that could be a little bit the same procedure, because
you just need more teams.
Like, all the clubs are really, they really want that. The problem is, as I said before, the FIFA calendar. So the players are leaving so many times a year that there is no space for playing more club games. Right. So there's a big problem right now. We're like struggling with FIFA and the ECA, because we're saying, we want to have more time to develop club football and not only taking care about national teams.
You talked about having 8,000, fans for that game, and 12,000 in Paris. I, for the first time, got to see the Euros for the women on television, and the fan support in Holland for that is huge. What is the fan support and like? Is it growing in Europe? Is it stronger than ever? Is it improving, or maybe we just don't see the full picture?
Yeah, it's quite hard. I mean, for us, it's quite hard in Munich, because there's so much going on game days in the city. The city is so huge, and to have like a fan base, it's quite tough. So we're like really struggling. So if we play games, for example, a cup game a little bit outside of Munich in the Bavarian area, we have like 2,500 people for a game playing against like a third or fourth league team. But if we play at home again and against a team which is not so known, if it's not like Wolfsburg or Freiburg, then we have like 800,000 people in the stadium. So we're struggling with this. So if we play away games, for us, much better, because it's the brand Bayern Munich, and which brings the fans. But to engage the fans in the city, quite hard for us.
Can be the same here in the United States. You play in New York, there's a lot of stuff to do. Miami always has the problem of trying to put butts in the seats too. Last question, a couple questions for me, and then we'll open it up to the group. Who's the best player on Bayern Munich right now? Women's team, yeah, obviously.
Oh, that's hard. But we made let's say a top three players from from the last 6 months. Our coaches did, and like showed the players when they had their first training now in preseason. And it was like Simone Lauder. She's a German national team player. Then there's a Dutch player. She's Jill Roth. She's a midfielder. She didn't play so much, but when she came in, she always made the difference. And there's a player who come from the Slovakia. She's one of our really, really good players. And she's one of the players I said before. She's one player, she's going into box, she's dribbling, and you don't see that much from other players. So she's really makes a really big difference. But the top player I would say right now, it's Simone Lauder.
And how important, looking ahead to the World Cup in 2019, how important is your role, and FC Bayern Munich, how important is the role of the clubs in helping prepare for a major event for the national team?
Yeah, it's very important because if you have German national team players in your squad, like the German national team coach, looking forward to see playing them. So it's quite hard for us also if you have like a lot of national team players in your team, and you have maybe sitting 2 national team players on the bench, and the World Cup is coming up, they need to play. So it's not always easy, but still we have we're playing a big role because in the end, they need to play, and that's we need to help with this, but it's quite hard sometimes. Not easy to find the balance.
All right, I've got a microphone here. I'm not sure if anybody has one in the crowd, but I will happily walk around. Does anyone have any questions?
You talked about how part of your job is to implement developmental strategy across the levels. Do you have meetings with the coaches? How frequently do you meet with them one-on-one? Or if you bring a new coach in, do you have sort of required coaching education that they have to do?
With the first team coach, like Thomas, I have meetings, almost daily meetings with him. With the youth team coaches, we meet almost twice a month with all coaches, talking about how it goes. If we have, if we want to change stuff, but also we have exchange. We on the phone with our under 20 player. I almost meet once a week because we're changing from a normal second team, women's team, into a U20. So there will be a lot of young players. So in the future in that team. So I meet with her every week. And then requirements of coaches, yes, we have requirements because the DFB put the rules into place. So for the women's team, you have to have a UEFA A license. For our under 17, it's the DFB B Jugend Youth Elite license. So we really try to have these license in place with coaches if we require, or if new coaches applying for the club.
Hi, you mentioned that a lot of your best players end up playing with boys when they're younger, but is there an area of Germany or a club in Germany that's producing the best female players consistently that ends up being a feeder for Bayern?
Yeah, I mean, we're not the top on the league. It's Wolfsburg right now, so there's some club, Freiburg for an example. Their team is very young, and they always give the chance to the youth. They develop in their youth players already from the age of U15 with playing girls, then U17, and then the first team. So they're like a really good example for developing the youth players and let them play in the first team. And even Hoffenheim is another good example where they really getting young players, developing them on that level and give them the chance in the first team. It's different model because it's an investment thing too. Like if you have the chance to get really good high-profile players, and on Hoffenheim or Freiburg side, they don't have the investment that they can go and get international players. I mean, you have to have a different strategy in place. We try to mix it now. In the beginning, like years ago, we always tried to get like only international, high-profile players. But now we try to mix it with our under-20 team. So we really try to develop youth players and give them a chance also in the second, or U20 team and in the first team.
Do you think Bayern will ever go down to under 15, maybe, or younger, or you think maybe 17 is?
No, I don't think so. We will not go down. I think first of all, it's also a facility problem too, because we're not that big, and also we have so many grassroots programs in the Bavarian region. So if we try to get like the best female players from all these little clubs, it's quite tough, and I think we won't play this role in our area to like really grab every single player from like these grassroots systems, because it's quite big in our area.
So I'm trying to get an understanding of how your system works, because if Bayern doesn't go out and get players to feed into your system, where are you going to get the youth from? Is it just from the local area around in the city? Or?
No, we feed our system because, I don't know, like the Bavarian region is quite big, really big. So if we have like players in a young age with 13, 14, 15, and they play with the boys, we're already scouting them already, but we let them play, not just because of the reason that they should play with the boys. It's more the point when you have to drive to training 200 kilometers in the age of, we have players like that, where their parents drive their kids like 3-4 times a week, 200 kilometers one way to training. It's not going to work. So to play football at Bayern Munich, to go to school where you live, sometimes it's not possible. So, and because of the Bavarian region is so big. So in the age of 16, when they finish the first part of the school, we take them over to Bayern, and then they start their last 2 years in the school in the Munich area, and also get like the housing from, it's like an Olympic program where they can get like, they have housing there, they get food there. There's a pedagogical side they have a pedagogical side. So that's how we feed our system. So we're not feeding our like system with players in the age of 10, 11, or 12. We wait until the age of 15, 16, and then we take them over to Bayern Munich. It's a little bit different, but we don't have the possibility really.
Thank you.
It used to be that many of the Northern European countries would send some of their better players to the collegiate system here in the United States. That seems to be changing. How do they feel about that at Bayern and through Germany?
Yeah, there are a lot of young players from Germany also go to the college system to play there. We have some young youth players in the US who are playing there. But yeah, for us, I mean, we're working with the GPS together, and we give also there a chance for like young female players to come over. We had some good examples the past year. So if there are interesting players, we always give them a chance to have a trial. We have a lot of trials from college players who are coming over, and in the past we had a lot of Americans in our system too. So there's always an open door if we have like talented players from the US coming over, even it's a college system, even it's from our partner GPS. There's always an open door for them.
Any other questions? Come on, people. Yes.
Um, the United Soccer Coaches kind of changed their coaching format in terms of education. What is the cost and time investment for coaching courses in Germany?
I think it depends on the license you want to take. We have like different, let's the A license, you have the pro license. That's quite an expensive thing, and even with time investment, that's why the most people who doing the pro license are former football, like soccer players who can really, take the investment for that and take the time, because I think it's almost a year and you have to be there from like Monday to Thursday and you have to pay a lot of money. The A license, it's more like 3 times, I think, 1 week. And I'm not sure how much it is right now, but it's not that expensive. And even the B license, I think it's 300 euros with like staying, housing, and it takes, I think, 2 times or 3 times 2 to 3 weeks. So the system is quite easy, and I think it's quite accessible for everyone. I mean, you have to be, to qualify for the A or for the B license. There are different rules, sure, but I think quite accessible for every single one.
There, and then we'll come back to you.
First of all, I gotta give you a compliment for your English. It's amazing. I don't know where you learned it because it's not so much accent. My question is here. You mentioned a girl from Sky Blue came to Germany and pretty much practice. Practice is harder there, you know? That is, maybe I didn't get it, what you're saying, but that is my feeling she was complaining that she was practicing harder. Because if it's like that, I think that's key for you to produce players is hard work, through fun, obviously. But if it's like that, I think that USA produce more girls. One thing, because more girls are playing soccer, maybe that is one of the things. Yeah. But do you think that?
I think in our club, the system is quite professional. Like when you coming over to our first team, it's really, really professional. Like the day, we have trainings, I think 7 times a week, plus the games. And it's really like tacted. It's like you have training like in the morning at 10:30, you train 1.5 hours, then you go for lunch with the team, then you have training at 4:30. Everything is really on time. I would say stereotype German, but
so U17s, they are doing same thing?
No, they are on the 17 not, but the first team are really doing they're professionals, so they be there mostly the whole day. But the one from Sky Blue, the player Leah, she came after 2 days. It wasn't I wouldn't say it's not training. Training was too hard. She said the game itself, it's so much different to what she's known from here. It's the speed of the game. It's a faster game. It's because the players are on a technical level much more developed, and both together change. It's a different game, and that's what she said. She said, I'm used to play college system. I'm used to play for Sky.
College is different.
I know.
Compare college and pro.
Yeah.
I'm comparing now, our league with German league. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is her experience, which she told me or told us. Like, she talked to our coaches after 2 or 3 trainings, and she was quite impressed about it. She didn't expect that.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
I actually have 2 questions. First of all, is there a lot of collaboration among coaches like the U17 and up in terms of style of play and methods, so that you're all kind of working on the same thing, so that the players that you're trying to develop end up doing the same drills from the time they're on the U17 team and on up? And then my other question is, do you think in the U.S. we have too many games to the number of times we practice?
To your first questions, we try to teach them the same way, but I answered in the question before, in the under 17 teams, we try to have the focus more on development. Means not winning games and being crazy or being winning, it's more the focus is on development. So you have to learn more systems and. It's the first team and our under 20 team. They're really going the same way. Because from these under 20 team now, we are like trying to get these players to fill our first team in the future. So that's why we changed that this year, like this season. And it's working quite well already. So, but they try to really play the same systems. They teach them the same systems in training that they can adjust quite fast to the first team when they're making that step. But the under 17 is really more learning everything, learning more systems, and not be in this, as I said before, in this box. You have to do this, you have to do this. Just try.
And how about in terms of practice to game ratio? What's your thoughts on the best for that?
Yeah, on the level, like on our level in the women's team, like on our first team in Germany, I think it's too many games. When you play national team, when you play club team, like league games, when you play Champions League, I think it's the rational. There's no balance. It's too many games in a short time. In US, I don't know really, but I think you have quite a short season, and probably too many games too. And plus, your national team players are having, I don't know how many camps all the time. So I think in general, the ration is not right. Because you can see that, like, when you see the amount of injuries of female players in a young age, I think it's crazy. When you compare that, like 10 years ago, totally different. But now you can see like all the women's players, even young players, are getting injured already in a really young age. And not just like a muscle injury, not really serious injuries, where they really have to think stopping careers in the age of like 23, 24, and that really never happened before. So I think this changed a lot the past years, and I think it's a really critical thing. We really have to have a look into it. It's really important.
One last question. Somebody here raise their hand. Was it you?
In regards to style of play and system of play, do you have to mirror the men's side of FC Bayern, or did you develop your own style?
No, we have our own style, because I think this exchange we don't have that much. So, and I think it's a different game, I would say. So we have our different tactics, we have different systems, and we're not adjusting to the guys. So we're not doing that, no.
So Bianca mentioned their partnership with GPS, Global Premier Soccer, and I wanted to let you guys know that they are doing a raffle in their booth. If you go to the exhibit hall, there is an exchange program where coaches from the United States get to go over to Munich, and you could win a trip over to Munich to learn some good stuff from people like Bianca. So they're in booth 538. If you guys want to do it, you drop your card in. And I think the raffle is getting pulled toward the end of the convention. So at some point, make sure you swing by there.
Stop by, get your business card in it. Munich is nice.
Yeah, well, I'll come visit and you can cook us a wonderful meal or something. Anyway, thank you to Bianca. Thank you for everyone to ask for your questions and for your presence today. We really appreciated learning from you. So thank you very much.